Tonight, women from our region join a class action against a debilitating dodgy implant. And soccer fans head along to join Reds players for training in Whyalla.
This is Southern Cross News with Tim Hatfield.
Good evening. Cutting down women in what should be the prime of their lives. 5 Port Pirie women have reported complications following pelvic mesh implants. A class action representing women throughout Australia is seeking damages for those who've been impacted, and there's also a Senate inquiry looking at the safety of the product.
Following complications of childbirth, around 2,000 women in Australia have had pelvic mesh implanted. But instead of helping, it's done more harm than good. It's debilitating women.
But it's had a major impact on my life. I live in chronic pain. I've got nerve impingement. I've got numbness in my leg and toes, and it's certainly impacted my family and my personal life.
Women are forced to fly to the United States to have the ProLift mesh safely removed, costing over $50,000.
There's actually no doctor in Australia that could remove the type of mesh that I had. It embedded itself in my bladder and bowel and rectum.
And the ProLift mesh has a 30% failure rate.
Ask your surgeon or your doctor what it actually involves, because I know that if I had been given all of the complications, I probably would, or I most certainly would not have even had this procedure at all.
I think watching Kim go through, all the troubles that she's had with mesh and how it impacts on her family life and her inability to do the things that she wants to do with her children, and also her work life, her life as a professional, I think that has been devastating.
700 women are involved in the class action, including women from Port Pirie, seeking damages for women who have been impacted by this mesh.
And it certainly affects Port Pirie locally. I know personally 5 women that have been directly affected by this, and it certainly impacted their lives.
Despite the high complication rate, surgeons are still implanting pelvic mesh into women. Knowledge is power, and it's about informed consent, so it is important to know the surgery and the risks that come with it. If you are experiencing post-surgery complications, it is important to know there is help available here in Port Pirie. Rachel Nell, Southern Cross News.
Port Lincoln police are on the hunt for a group of thieves accused of stealing gas bottles and breaking into trucks this week. Police say companies are fed up by being targeted by vandals and will be concentrating patrols around businesses at night.
Enough is enough. Multiple break-ins at local businesses this week have forced Port Lincoln Police to get on the front foot in a bid to stop resident thieves.
Police are still working around the clock, and we will be targeting business premises to make sure that this kind of thing is prevented.
On Tuesday night, gas company Gas was targeted by intruders who passed through security fencing before making away with 11 gas bottles. Port Lincoln Police says someone knows who did it, and it's time to give them up.
If you notice in your neighbour's yard that they've got 11 gas bottles and that's unusual and they're not usually in their yard, then please give us a call. That is suspicious, and we'd be keen to speak to anybody.
The next night at the nearby waste dump, vandals broke into a number of trucks, causing significant damage. The following night, even more trucks were targeted, 8 in total.
5 extinguishers were removed from some of those trucks, and we believe that those fire extinguishers were used to smash windows of other trucks.
Police believe the series of events could be related and are working to apprehend those involved.
Members of the Port Lincoln community, whether they're business owners or residents, to just take that extra precaution, be extra vigilant.
Police also encouraging members of the public to call 000 if they see or hear anything unusual. Jason Kemp, Southern Cross News.
The CEO of Broken Hill's Robinson College says the Alesco Learning Centre will definitely close its doors at the end of the month. Despite endless lobbying, an extension couldn't be achieved, and the centre will now be helping students with the transition to other schools instead.
As school holidays come to a close this week in Broken Hill, students at Alesco face a tough Term 3. The decision to close was made by the Robinson Education Centre Board last month after compliance standards set by the New South Wales Education Standards Authority were not met. The board decided they would not request an internal review.
By going down the line of asking for a review, that took any control away from us Robertson College, the board, etc. So we chose to take the position where we would have control over the closure.
Miss Dottie Mead says some students have already begun enrolment into the city's high schools, and there's plenty of support being offered.
The Department of Education also offer distance education. We've been in contact with TAFE New South Wales as well to see what programs that the students could roll into, and also to any students who are choosing to leave school, we offer foundation skills for them to participate in.
Alesco will shut its doors on July 28. Patrick Reinke, Southern Cross News.
The state government has announced a new push to reduce prisoner reoffending rates, which it says will improve community safety. The Correctional Services Minister says they're aiming to reduce reoffending by 10%, and Port Augusta's prison will play a pivotal role in the policy rollout.
10% by 2020 is the target the state government has set, aiming to reduce the rate of prisoner reoffending. While the Port Augusta prison awaits 128 extra beds, the Correctional Services Minister says it will play a large part in the new policy.
It is one of the larger facilities that we've got within the state prison system, so that'll be central to us achieving this target.
$40 million will be invested into accommodation for newly released prisoners and rehabilitation programs.
Our principal focus to achieve that is the way we transition prisoners from prison into the community. We need to do that by making sure that prisoners don't leave custodial facilities into homelessness. We need to make sure there is some form of transition accommodation.
Some of the changes will include customised programs for Aboriginal offenders.
Aboriginal offenders within the state's custody are having unique tailored programs to their cultural needs to maximise the likelihood of their second chance working out for the better.
The Port Augusta upgrade is due to be finished next month. Amelia Simpson, Southern Cross News.
Stay with us. Still to come in tonight's local news, petrol price fight. Why drivers on the EP are paying so much for fuel. The details ahead. Welcome back. Port Lincoln residents have voiced their anger online with fuel prices in the area soaring well above the state average. Bowser prices peaked at $1.30 this week, while other petrol stations around the state were up to 15 cents cheaper.
It's the Port Lincoln fuel war, and customers are the ones losing out. Prices for petrol in Port Lincoln remain the highest in the state, almost 10 cents above the average. The sky-high prices causing public outcry, but experts say it's time for residents to start shopping around.
There simply isn't the concentration of competition. Here in Adelaide we have a lot of outlets and we have a lot of little pockets that start to compete even with themselves.
Kadina, one-third the size of Port Lincoln, currently has fuel for $1.17, 11 cents cheaper. Analysts putting the onus back on the servos to look after their customers.
Service stations who have regular flows of customers, you would hope they would look at their pricing and keep that customer with more attractive prices.
And there's one independent station doing just that. For 3 months, Cruisers Cafe on the Marina have been well below the town's average, leaving them confused as to the price war between the big players.
We ourselves can't understand the high prices throughout the town, and we've just got no idea why everyone else charges what they charge.
And they're committed to keeping prices low.
The cafe is where our business is, and yeah, the fuel is just it's a nice extra bit. They come because the prices are cheap, and yeah, then they buy other stuff when they're in the store.
Experts urging residents to find the best price and to stick with it.
If you're happy with the price and you've had a bit of a look around, fill the tank, keep it full.
Jason Kemp, Southern Cross News.
More support for workers in the Silver City. The general manager of the Broken Hill Musicians Club says the club will not lower weekend and holiday penalty rates for staff members. Michael Boland says even if clubs around Australia are allowed to cut staff pay, he's not having a bar of it.
Having once worked behind the bar years ago, Michael Boland understands the importance of penalty rates and what they mean for his staff.
As I worked my way up the ladder to my current position, I relied on those penalty rates to pay things like rent.
At the start of the month, hospitality workers in bars, restaurants and hotels had their weekend and public holiday rates cut at a rate of 25%, thanks to the Turnbull government. Now, Clubs Australia, the body that represents clubs nationally, is asking the Fair Work Commission to also allow them to cut wages. Mr Boland says even if Clubs Australia receives the support, he won't be cutting any rates.
Most of the clubs in Broken Hill are on enterprise agreements negotiated between the staff and the unions, and where I'm more than happy with my agreement.
He says there is no chance penalty rates will be looked at.
They're giving up their weekend and their sports commitments. They deserve to be rewarded for their effort in coming to work on the weekend.
The clubs in town were based off the trade union movement, and Mr Boland says it's important to honour the reason why they were first created.
They were formed by workers, for a place for workers to go after work. We've got clubs in this state such as the Tradies. There's the Labor Club in Canberra, so very, very big trade union movement in clubs, and I think we need to honour our history and our forebearers.
Federal Labor has promised to reverse the cuts if it wins the next election. Patrick Reinke, Southern Cross News.
The Vinnies store in Port Augusta is thriving in its new location on the city's main shopping strip. The new shop is 6 times bigger than its old location, and managers say it's seeing big sales in its first week.
A step up from the small building on the west side of town, Port Augusta's Vinnies is now in a prime position and it's thriving after just 1 week.
This is about 6 times larger. Sales are well over 10 times what we were doing over there. And just the look of the shop and the conditions of the shop and the conditions for the volunteers are so much better too.
In a visible location on Commercial Road, they're seeing more people come through the doors.
And we seem to be still holding the momentum, and lots of people are still coming through that haven't been here before. Lots of tourists, which is good too, and lots of locals. So.
One local volunteer says they're already seeing regulars.
We've had some people who've been coming back every few days and we've only been open a week. So it's really been great.
Handbags and winter boots have been bestsellers, and it's all going to a good cause.
This is much better. This is lighter. We've got fantastic stock, and it's really, really going well.
Proceeds from the shop go to Vinnies, Fred's Van and men's shelter programs.
I really love my job, and getting that extra satisfaction out of it is great too. So you don't just work to get paid, you actually work to help people as well, which is excellent. So there's not many jobs you can do that.
Amelia Simpson, Southern Cross News.
Well, stay with us. When we return after the break, soccer fans head along to join Reds players for training in Whyalla. We'll head along next. Welcome back. Over 100 Whyalla locals headed to the Croatia Soccer Club yesterday afternoon as Adelaide United held an open training session. The event was part of the club's community camp, with the new coach happy to show off for supporters.
It's not often a big sporting team comes to Whyalla, so locals lapped up the opportunity to see Adelaide United in action. The club's senior squad held an open training session, with new coach Marco Kurz focusing on their ball skills. With just 3 months left until the season kicks off, he says getting the basics right is important.
A simple training, a lot of technique, passing drills, a simple game, 5 against 2.
Kurz has coached at a number of teams in the Bundesliga, Germany's highest professional soccer league. He says clubs in Europe do go away on training camps, but with a focus on training rather than promoting the team.
We go, for example, to Austria for 2 weeks for hard training, not for promotion. We have a lot of practice games in Austria. We have a lot of good teams. They stay.
Many of the drills on show are commonly done by local soccer teams at their own training sessions. Coach Kurz says despite the gap between the A-League and the local competition, the fundamentals of the game remain the same.
Technique, the pass, the first touch, that's always similar of the world.
John Hunt, Southern Cross News.
Former Olympian and Commonwealth Games gold medalist Kieran Govers was in Port Lincoln as part of a hockey clinic this week. Kieran, who won bronze with the Kookaburras at the London Olympics, was in town to pass on his experience to junior players at the Port Lincoln Hockey Association. Known for his power and precision, Kieran was also joined by New South Wales state goalkeeper BJ Bruton, both giving high praise to the Port Lincoln hockey setup.
To have this and have a clubhouse like this and change rooms, it's a credit to the association, and hopefully they might be able to get another one or just keep this one maintained and maybe get a few tournaments down here. So if you can attract some national associations to come down here, then bigger and better things can happen.
Well, time to see who our tipsters are backing this round. Here's this week's local footy tips.
Local football football returns with round 10 of SGL football. We've got 3 good games this weekend, starting with South and the Lions on Saturday at Port Augusta. South have been inconsistent this season, as have the Lions, and both teams will be looking to correct this in the run to the September. I'll take South in this one. On Saturday in Pirrie, it's Port taking on Central. Both teams find themselves at the bottom of the ladder with just 2 wins apiece. Port have lost their past 6 matches and will be wondering where their next win is coming from. Central kept with the Lions for 3 quarters last week, but could only manage 4 goals for the match. This one's hard to call, but I'm tipping Central. On Sunday in Pirrie, it's the top of the table clash with top side Solly up against second place West. Sollies have had a brilliant start to their season, with their only loss coming back in round 4 against South. West have copped some injuries in the last few weeks and will be hoping to welcome a few players back after last week's break. I'm tipping Solly to continue their winning ways.
Welcome to Whyalla Football, back after a weekend off for the Country Championships. The lead into finals starts now. First up, Bennett Oval on Saturday. It's North Whyalla versus South Whyalla. South have slipped to the bottom of the ladder by percentage. Still a chance for the finals, but I can't see them beating North. Saturday's game at Memorial Oval, Central Whyalla versus Roona Bay. It's 3rd versus 4th. Bays have dropped off a little bit. Centrals are going along nicely. Roosters to win. And finally on Sunday at Bennett Oval, it's Rapina versus West Whyalla. Rapina still a big shot in making the finals. They do need to get a move on. They're playing good football. They'll be competitive, but it is top team West, so Dragons to win.
Welcome to Port Lincoln Footy Tips. We kick off round 9 at Centenary Oval, where Boston's are taking on Waybacks. Waybacks have been in real good form lately, but have struggled to get a big score on the board. I think this is their week, and I'm tipping them to win by a big margin. In the next game, we've got Mallee Park heading to Ravendale Oval to take on Tasmans. Won't be like the first time they met where Mallee Park won by 200 points. I think it'll be a lot closer, but I can't see Tasmans getting too close. I'm tipping Mallee Park to win this one by a big margin also. In the last game, we've got Lincoln South heading up to Wongaree to take on Marble Range. Lincoln South need to win this game to cement their spot in the 4. However, I think Marble Range are going to be too strong at home. I'm tipping Marble Range by 4 goals.
Round 13 in Broken Hill football this week sees North playing West. West trying to hold on to something for the year, but I believe North will be too strong with the likes of Kelly playing back in the centre, and they're certainly missing someone out of the centre to get the ball into their forward lines, so it'll be North by 40 to 50 points. Second game sees South playing Central. Central, certainly with a never-say-die attitude, will be looking for a win, but South will be far too strong with an easy 60 to 80 point win.
Well, stay with us after the break. A look at the weekend weather. Welcome back. Turning to the weather now, and first, this week's weather photo sent in to us by Lineker Richards, snapped while flying out from Port Augusta this week. If you have a weather photo to share, make sure to email it in to us. A fine 18 for Port Augusta today with 17 in Whyalla. Port Lincoln also 17 with some showers, 16 the top in Port Pirie. Broken Hill a fine at 17. On the national satellite image, cloud continues to bring showers to the region as it's pushed across by a high in the west. Out on the waters, the winds to 15 knots to the southwest. The seas to a metre and southerly. Sunrise at 23 minutes past 7. So a mixed bag to kick off the weekend. 17 and fine in Port Augusta and Whyalla. Port Lincoln with some showers and also 17 again. Port Pirie seeing showers as well, 16 the top and a sunny 15 in Broken Hill. Then showers lingering around for Port Lincoln, 18 on Sunday. Clevewood 17 and 19 in Woodnett to wrap up the weekend. Whyalla also wet with 19 for Sunday and 18 for Monday. Port Augusta 20 both days. Kadina wet and windy to wrap up the weekend on 17 degrees. Port Pirie with 18 and then 17 for Sunday with the showers hanging around. 14 for Clare and also wet. The showers won't hit Broken Hill just yet, however a fine 17 on Sunday and then 21 degrees on Monday. Before we go tonight, a big thank you. Our Facebook page reached 15,000 likes today and we very much appreciate all your support. If you haven't done so yet, head along to facebook.com/scnewssa and make sure you keep in touch with us. That is the local news for this evening and for the week. We'll see you back here on Monday night from 6:30. I'm Tim Hadfield from the Southern Cross News team. Have a great weekend. Good night.